Hello and welcome back to Instantly Inverted. I'm John and we're playing Planet Coaster. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, it is the close season in the United Kingdom, which means that the theme parks in the UK are no longer open. We're waiting a little bit for the kind of Christmas events, so I know Alton Towers has a Christmas event where you can visit Santa Claus, and really it's primarily for the kind of kids and family market, so it's not really something for the adults. So I thought, to wipe away those closed season blues, we're going to play a little bit of Planet Coaster, and I had an interesting concept of doing a Winter Wonderland kind of themed park. So a little bit like the London Hyde Park Winter Wonderland. They also have one in Stoke-on-Trent, which we'll be visiting at some point, so watch out for that vlog. So at the moment I'm just doing the layout for the actual park. Well, I say park, it's more of a kind of fair, which most of these Winter Wonderland style parks are like. So as you can see on the screen now, this is the kind of planned layout for the park. We've got a Wild Mouse coaster, a looping coaster, we've got a dark ride that we're going to be building at some point, kids coaster, plenty of flat rides, and then shopping villages, so that'll be a lot of fun. So we're going to start off building the kind of Wild Mouse coaster, which is going to be similar to many other kind of spinning Wild Mouses across these kind of fairgrounds and kind of Winter Wonderland experiences. So it took me a while actually to kind of get the perfect layout for these. I actually find these quite difficult to build, and so it took me a few kind of iterations to get the basic concept down. I did try a few different layouts. I always find the beginning of these kind of somewhat simple. Is that kind of typical going down, going around some really tight bends, and Planet Coaster is perfect for this. There are, if you see in the kind of bottom left, they've got the non-inverted, pre-made kind of track effects, and so we used a lot of these kind of tight bends. And then in this first iteration, I did this kind of sweeping bend, which I thought would be quite nice actually, going into this very sharp bend here, but it's a very kind of difficult concept to build, like trying to make sure that these rides don't go down too much. They are full of block breaks as well, which can actually be a little bit of a challenge in themselves, because we're trying to get them to go back and round, but when you've got block breaks, it's hard to get the coaster back up to a relatively decent height. So we had to work a little bit on that and try and figure out the best way to do this. And then I started to notice here that it seemed like the kind of coaster was all just underneath itself. So as you can see, we're just testing it right now, and I wasn't really sure whether I wanted it all to be at the back of the layout. I kind of, and as you can see there, it actually did stall. So this is where I first kind of changed the layout and decided, this isn't going to work. I'm going to have to change it around, and I had to work around on a lot of the block breaks and things like that. So it became quite tricky. I did manage it in the end, as you'll actually see later on. Here comes the first, kind of track change and track layout, workaround. And I did quite like this, how it goes back towards like the back of the coaster and then does a nice little dip, and then comes, as you'll see, it will come back up under this track and into another kind of zigzag section. At this point, the spinning lock has been, unlocked, and so the coaster can actually start spinning now, which is obviously a very kind of unique, I say unique, it's a very signature part of these rides. As you can see, at first I made it come down this way, but it didn't work too well, and this is where I say that I struggle with these a little bit. I do love these coasters, they're a lot of fun. If you ever go to a fairground, definitely check out one of these. I always find it quite fascinating, really, how they make these fantastic coasters travel. They are all, once they're finished with for the season, they're all packed up and then moved to a different part of the world. Really, they travel around Europe a lot. So actually, a lot of these coasters, from what I've noticed, correct me if I'm wrong, they all do seem to be from Germany. So back to the Germans being very efficient and being able to build coasters that can travel very far distances. I mean, take Olympia Looping for example. That is a fantastic Schwarzkopf, if I can say it correctly, Schwarzkopf coaster that travels all across the country, all across the world. Actually, no, not across our country. The first time it was spotted in the UK was actually at Winter Wonderland, I believe, 2 Christmases ago at Winter Wonderland. correct me again if I am wrong, but I believe it was the first time at Winter Wonderland. And it was, very hyped up, where everybody wanted to get on that coaster. We travelled to Winter Wonderland for the first, not for the first time, but for the first time to ride Olympia looping there. So, it is a fantastic coaster. A little bit jolty and a little bit kind of rough on the shoulders, but it is still a very, classic coaster that I definitely recommend that you guys definitely go and check out at Winter Wonderland. We will be there this year filming another vlog. As you can see, here's the POV of this layout at the moment. Very nice little coaster, I think. Really enjoyed building this. Sweeps around a little bit and then starts spinning. Lovely little coaster. As you can see, though, it does stall again. So we have to... I think it stalls at this bit. Or does it not? No, this is just working out the blocks. I think it does get around the whole circuit at this point. I did have to work around on the... friction values on these coasters because as we all know, Planet Coaster is not the most realistic when it comes to building coasters. No Limits 2 is still probably the premier kind of software to use for building very realistic recreations of coasters and realistic layouts for coasters. But yeah, we did build a very nice efficient kind of design. I believe it's 5 or 6 trains on this coaster, which that's pretty good, I believe. So yeah, really enjoyed building this, and this will be the first kind of coaster that you will see as you're queuing up to come into the park itself. This will raise above everything else, besides Olympia Looping, which will be behind this one. I say Olympia Looping, it's probably going to be something like a Gerstlauer as well, because they have a lot of travelling Gerstlauers now. And I do like a good Gerstlauer, and I think it will be nice to have an inverting kind of travelling coaster here at this kind of park. At the moment, the park is just known as Winter Wonderland. If you have any good kind of ideas for names for this place, then let me know. And I'll definitely consider every kind of feedback. Okay, so we are moving on now to the entrance to this park. I wanted to go with a very kind of like classic kind of German or almost Bavarian kind of village entrance. I wanted to work with scale correctly as well. So you can see that I'm kind of messing around with this little piece of window here because I wanted there to be like ticket booths on the entrance, or maybe not ticket booths because I want ticket booths outside, but maybe kind of like information desks or places to grab maps and all sorts of kind of things, like maybe extra upcharge tickets for like an Ice Kingdom style thing like they do actually have at the Hyde Park Winter Wonderland. So I wanted something that was almost like you can walk in, you've already got your ticket, you walk straight in, get your bags checked. I will be at some point building a security almost checkpoint kind of thing, because as we all know, in the United Kingdom we do have a lot of those kind of security kind of booths now. There have been some kind of tragic events that have happened in the United Kingdom, and safety of people is the priority these days. It's a shame that things have had to get to this way, but I would rather more security than have less. I think we all would really in that case, wouldn't we? So here I'm just building some windows and some kind of shutters. My idea was with that window that the it's one of those kind of lift up windows where a staff member can lift up the window and then start serving people. Something I've forgotten to build here actually is I wanted a little like kind of a card machine on the kind of windowsill there, so that the staff member could put the card machine out there so that people could pay with card, or maybe Apple Pay. Apple Pay is a big thing these days, or Android Pay. We've got to be all inclusive these days with those Android users. There are a lot of them now. I am actually a Apple user myself. Got an iPhone. That's besides the point anyway. I'm not sure why I'm telling you what phone I've got, but yeah, as you can see, we've got the archer there for size, and we're just building a kind of like a little kind of cabin idea so that people can buy their tickets. I've put tickets on there, but it won't really be for tickets. I can imagine much like in these kind of winter kind of pop-up parks, they do actually have words on the buildings that may not actually be for what the building is for. Obviously these buildings are used in multiple places, and so they get moved around a lot, and they may not actually be used for the thing that you know, they get moved too. So, you know, you may have something that's a ticket booth somewhere else at a different park, but once it gets moved to a different location, it will actually be used for something else. I'm not sure why I've paused here. I think I went off to do something else. So yeah, apologies for that. It's kind of a bit of just standing around doing absolutely nothing. Have a look at the archer doing his quick little animation there, and we're back again. So I wanted to start building a roof here, and I didn't want the kind of typical, you know, we're just going to pop a roof on top and, you know, there we go, we're done. I wanted something that would kind of stick out, add a bit of kind of dimension to the actual building itself. Had a bit of trouble with these roofs actually, because they don't have a kind of, it's a one-size-fits-all kind of situation here. So we had to kind of do the best with what we have, and so there is a bit of what is it, Z-fighting going on with the roof tiles. You sometimes see it, not always though. It's fine for screenshots, but when you've got video you can see it kind of flickers a little bit, but it's not the end of the world, we can get on with that. I'm not sure whether I like the roof here. I have done this roof. My idea was that, you know, because it is you know, travelling, they will need some extra support just for things like wind and stuff. They haven't been able to build the sturdiest of roofs because, well, they've got to pack it up at the end of the Christmas season and move it somewhere else. But, you know, it almost looks like a parcel, I think, with a bit of a, you know, kind of ribbon around it. But, you know, I quite like it anyway. But I'm not sure whether I'm completely satisfied with it. Only time will tell. Maybe in the next episode I will have got rid of it. So, yeah, this is going to be my series for the whole of Christmas, really. This is going to be the kind of weekly video. I've got a few things, like a few other things planned. I want to kind of do some kind of close season news, kind of what's happening around the resorts during Christmas, maybe some close season updates at Alton Towers if I can actually, you know, get in there or anything. Obviously, we're not going to get very close because, well, the attraction that we do know is being built is the dungeons, which, you know, is going to, has been confirmed that it will be an upcharge attraction apparently, which, you know, I kind of assumed it would be that way. Not exactly bothered because I do believe for annual pass holders it won't be an upcharge. I think it's included, but I think you get one visit a day or something. But, you know, either way, just using some of the terrain tools here actually, just to edit the pathways, kind of get an idea of which way things are going to go. And then you can see I duplicate this building over here to get an idea of what I want to do. So, of course, my kind of idea for this entrance was actually to have kind of that Bavarian village kind of theme, or that kind of like, you know, warming kind of Christmas introduction almost. If you catch my kind of drift, you know, you'll see what it looks like as I get on, and I kind of did this staggered like roofing overlay, and it's kind of a really, when I'm finished with it, I do really like this. It does look quite warming and welcoming, and it's like a very, I'd like to say grandiose, but it's a very kind of like calm grandiose entrance, if you know what I mean. You'll see as we get further along. I wanted it to be kind of like large enough that you'd have a large, or like a huge majority of people be able to come in through this way. There will actually be another entrance, or maybe another couple, just like Hyde Park, Winter Wonderland in London. They do have multiple entrances to the attractions, well, to the actual park, I'd say. So not everybody is cramming into one location, which would be a bit of a nightmare. It would remind me of the Walt Disney Studios park in Disneyland Paris. If you've watched our Disneyland Paris vlogs, you will know how much I dislike the studio's entrance. Yeah, it does annoy me a little bit. But either way, you can see we're building these pillars which are going to support this whole kind of roofing structure. I'm not sure whether it looks under-supported. I think my gut feeling is that it does look under-supported. And I did try and add some supports to it. You'll see in the video that I tried, but I couldn't get it to look quite right. And I didn't want this structure to go into the other buildings because that kind of would ruin the kind of pop-up effect of them. So I leave them as is for now, but I do add these kind of concrete kind of ballasts, I guess, that would kind of, you'd pop the supports into these, and then it would almost support the bottom structure. seeing as it is concrete. It may work, but then I also think if this is a pop-up attraction, how is the concrete going to work? So that's something that I might have to revisit at some point. You know, maybe it is just metal that goes into metal on the ground, and I'll have to look at maybe doing that. You can see where I tried to do these extra structures there, but I feel like that was encroaching on the path a little bit too much. But yeah, this is the basic idea for the actual entrance. It looks quite nice, I think. Very kind of welcoming. And you'll be able to see that we actually do add some kind of Christmas lights into this, and a little bit of kind of decoration for now. So yeah, it's, you know, obviously not complete yet, but it is very close to being there. In the next episode I will actually cover over a little bit more of it and work a bit more on the actual entrance. But I do want to kind of at least get 1 or 2 rides plus a bit of scenery done per episode. I think that's the best way to progression. Obviously, I have, if you've watched my channel before, you will notice that I sometimes start a Planet Coaster series, and then I kind of forget to finish it, which I think would actually be the same for a lot of Planet Coaster content creators. I think if you check anyone's things, you'll see that a lot of content creators have issues with actually completing their projects, though some of them are actually getting a lot better at it. I watch a guy called Mass Bandit. If you haven't seen him before, go check him out. He did a really fantastic vintage pack DLC series where he built a vintage pier. That's an absolutely fantastic series. You need to go check it out if you can. But that is actually one of his projects that he has completely finished, and it looks amazing. Yeah, definitely worth going and checking out that series if you have the time. But, you know, yeah, go give him a little subscribe and say hello. But yeah, so as you can see, we're just putting the Christmas kind of bulbul lights up. Kind of like strip lights, aren't they? That kind of flashy kind of look. I like them. I like them a lot. I wish they gave off a little bit more light, but then I guess in real life these lights don't give off that much light anyway. If we all know, we put these up on our Christmas tree, and then you take a look at them, they won't actually glow the whole house, will they? So I did have to put in these floodlights, and that, you know, they don't, you know, create too much light. They create just enough that, you know, it gives a realistic kind of atmosphere and vibe to the area. Lights enough that there won't be any insurance claims. So yeah, and you can see we're putting these barricades in, which would be kind of to stop people going behind the scenes and going into the buildings at the back, because there are back entrances. Obviously these would be, you know, management huts and that kind of that vibe on them. So we're putting the little hanging lights on this one, so they're not tight. These ones, they're just a little bit like droopy, which I quite like the look of. But yeah, that is pretty much this episode done with. Yeah, so we managed to build our entrance. We've got a little bit more work to do on it in the next episode, but I really like the way that this has turned out so far, and as you can see, we're just kind of looking around a little bit just to see what our next bit to do is. So next episode we will start working a little bit more on that wild mouse, and we'll finish off this entrance. So yeah, thanks very much for watching, guys, and I will see you all in the next episode. Bye bye.